conversation with Mr. Vipul Chatterjee, the Executive Director of Cuts International. The venue of the interview today is Kolkata. My name is Indrakshi, and today we are going to start off with a few general questions about the borderlands and how economy and social differences have been worked on by Cuts International. Can I start by asking what interests you about the borderlands in particular? And generally, to be more precise, the eastern borderlands. Why would you say that you're interested in these aspects, sir?
I would say both history and geography. If we look at the history and geography of our borderlands, particularly when you are talking about eastern borderlands, you know that history is largely unknown. We are not taught the history of Northeast India. And if we look at the history, it's largely oral history. So I have interacted with large number of people from Northeast India, particularly during my student days in Delhi University. And that's how I got interested in that land. Those days there was no social media such things, so we are not much aware of issues or what was happening in Northeast India in particular. It was largely oral history, but we do not recognize oral history, as you know. Along with that, the geography. Now, if we combine history and geography, let me tell you a very basic definition of history, which is a dialogue between the past and the present while addressing the future. So that particularly attracts me towards Northeast India. I'll give you a small example. It may sound small, but actually it has large implications, ramifications. There is one place in Tripura in Northeast India. From there, right at the bottom in the south, the coastline is hardly about 50-60 kilometers. If we had that piece of land at the time of partition, then Northeast India would have had access to sea, and that would have many implications for connectivity, for livelihood generation, for trade, for security as well. So you have to therefore keep such things in mind. We can't change our border, but we have to use our border in a better manner, so that not just there is better connectivity, more trade, more economic activities, but people who are staying in those areas, they get better livelihood opportunities. Yeah. As you know that Northeast India, some districts, they are still very low in terms of human development. With economic activities, with better livelihood generation, better connectivity, more trade, I think there will be more opportunities for them to generate income on their own, which will provide a lot of security, both in traditional as well as non-traditional sense. We have to develop border areas. Fortunately, the present regime, both at the central level, union level, as well as in all those states in Northeast India, there is a lot of emphasis on developing border areas and connecting border areas with capital cities, for example, Agartala, which is close to border, but even otherwise, cities like Guwahati, Aizawl, Silchar, and all these cities, they are now getting better connected among themselves. As you know that a huge railway network is being developed. By 2025, I think all capital cities of northeastern states will be connected by railways. Road network is also being developed as compared to what used to be in the past. There is also a new initiative taken by Government of India along with state governments, that is called Vibrant Village Initiative. So about 500 villages along our border areas, they will be developed with all modern facilities as vibrant villages. So I would say it's connectivity along with other basic necessities of life, which I think over the last decade or so, there is a lot of developments which are taking place in border areas, and that will change the life of people in border areas.
All right, so coming back to the organization that is CUTS. Before we start with talking about CUTS's journey in rural development in Rajasthan, was that the particular trigger for looking at the hinterlands as a large part of what is around our eastern borderlands? Do you feel like, is there any resemblance between the development work that you do in Rajasthan and the same being implemented in the hinterlands as well? Would you say there are a few resemblances?
Absolutely. You see, let me tell you a brief history about CUTS. We started in 1983, though we got registered in 1984, in June 1984. But the initiative that started in 1983 with a Rural Development Communication Initiative, which is called Gram Gadar. We covered various issues which are relevant for our rural communities. In those days, there was hardly any communication, means of communication other than radio. Even television was just coming to our country in those days. There was no social media, nothing. So we printed Gram Gadar, which is a monthly, which is still being published every month. And we used to send out. We first developed our founder, Mr. Pradeep Mehta. It was he, along with his friends, few of his friends, they developed a network of our postal service employees, the auxiliary postal service guys, in various villages covering all over Rajasthan. And that's how we could reach out to a large number of people and started telling them about their needs and what the government and other agencies are doing for themselves. So I see a lot of resemblance about the needs of rural communities, not just in Rajasthan. The similar needs are there all over the country. And when I have visited most places in Northeast, and I see there are a lot of similarities. Yeah. And that's definitely one of the reasons why we are so interested in working in Northeast India. And we have been working in Northeast India, particularly I would say that my colleagues in our Calcutta center, they have been working in Northeast India in a big way. We are covering all 8 states, including Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, all states in Northeast India. And I see that if there can be better communications between the people on the ground and government, then things can improve. And that has been proven in many cases.
In the same vein, sir, according to the important parts that you mentioned, can you walk us through your work on particular cross-border trades between India and Bangladesh along the Brahmaputra and the Meghna?
I would say there is a history behind it that is happening for centuries. It got disrupted as a result of redrawing of political boundaries. We all know that. Now both governments are keen to revive this waterway trade between India and Bangladesh. Brahmaputra and Meghna, these are the 2 major rivers through which this trade takes place. There are other rivers also. And we are now advocating for small haul trade, not big barges or big cargo ships, which may not be possible given the condition of these rivers, particularly during the lean season, winter season. But small haul trade is very much possible, and we have identified a number of stretches between India and Bangladesh, along with Brahmaputra and Meghna and some of their tributaries and distributaries, where small haul trade is possible. And the good thing is that as a result of our advocacy, governments of Bangladesh and India, they have agreed to resume such trade in specific stretches. For example, between Sonamura in Tripura and Daudkandi in Bangladesh, between Chilmari and Dhubri in India. And we are continuing that work and continuing to identify stretches and commodities which can be traded. Local people are very happy because their income generating opportunities have increased as a result of that kind of trade.